بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على Muhammad وآل Muhammad وعجل فرجهم. So, Alhamdulillah, we finished the section on Nabi Ayyub alayhi salam, and now we will start with Shu'ayb alayhi salam. So, he was in a city called Midian, located in the northwestern region of the Arabian Peninsula, west of Tabuk and east of Gulf of Aqaba. So Midian in Arabic is known as Madian, and it's mentioned, the author says in his footnote that is mentioned in the Bible, in the Old Testament or the Torah, in Exodus, the book of Exodus, chapter 18 and verses 1 through 27 and other places in the Bible. So they said this land, Midian, it was fertile and covered with a lot of woods and trees. So the people of this place came to be known as Ashab al-Aika, or the people of the woods. So they had a lot of forest and trees and things like this. So they were really prosperous people. However, their prosperity, instead of fortifying their devotion to the one who gave them the prosperity, it made them degenerate and actually go the other way. So they were ruled by, they had a corrupt king, a very oppressive ruler. And in his effort to try to safeguard their prosperity and their wealth and the things they had earned, he told all of the subjects to stockpile and to hoard all that they harvested so they could make the prices go up and they could get more profit. This is one of the haram things to do, is to take advantage of the market and stockpile everything to drive all of the prices up. So this is one of his methods that he did. And then he encouraged fraud in the marketplace. So the merchants, they rigged their weights and their measures so that they would cheat people in their business dealings. They could give less merchandise than what they could give less merchandise for higher price, or they could, for example, mix milk with water or something, dilute something to make it and then sell it as original. These type of tricks, they could trick their scales. And he says they did this to people. And when they bought from other people, from the suppliers, they insisted that everything is weighed and measured in full. So when they bought it, they were very particular. They want it weighed, they want it measured, they want all the way to the gram. But with their weights and measures, they're cheating other people. And we see that is mentioned in Quran in Surah Mutaffifin, Surah 83, the first few ayats, 4 ayats. Woe to those people who defraud. Said those who take full measure when they buy from people, but they give less when they measure or weigh for those who buy from them. Do such people think that they will not be resurrected? So say, they're thinking they're getting over on people and that they're getting money, but don't they know that the one who sees everything is seeing them, and they will judge them, and that they will not escape from, the witness of all things. He says they also ruthlessly undervalued their suppliers' merchandise, finding fault where there was none to be found, so that they could buy their goods for less than they are worth. But more than that is they had forgotten all the teachings of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam and Lut alayhi salam, and had started worshiping a bunch of other gods alongside God. So they started doing shirk. So this thing where they start finding fault with the items in order to get the price lower. This is one of the forbidden things mentioned in the chapter of buying and selling in jurisprudence and fiqh, is to intentionally look for defaults in order to get a lower price. So you come in there and you try to find a default. Of course, if there is a default and it's evident and you see, and then you can negotiate something with that. But this is different. These people are looking specifically to lower the price by trying to find the default. Or they lie and they say, oh, the person over there, they have it for, they're selling it to you for $100. I saw it over here for, $75. So can you give me $75? But you never saw anything over there for 75, and there is no person over there. And you're lying to try to, get the price. This is not allowed in business transactions. So they were doing a lot of, shady business, we could say. So he says, to the north in the city of Hebron lived Shu'ayb. Shu'ayb is Arabic. The English is called Jethro. He was a descendant of one of Lut's daughters, whom Lut had married to one of Ibrahim's followers, who immigrated with them when they came from Kutha to Hebron. Shu'ayb was an exceptional man, and he was devoted to Allah and to the way or the law of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. And he was known for spending long hours in dua and prayers, and he would cry during his supplications to Allah. So Allah chose Shu'ayb as a prophet and a messenger, and he gave to him the relics of the past prophets. He allowed him to have those relics, which included the staff of Adam alayhi salam that was fashioned from that box thorn of the Jannah. And Allah sent him to guide those people of Midian. So these items we'll talk about later in other chapters, but these items, these relics of the prophets were passed down from prophet to prophet, as we saw that the cloak or the Aba of Ibrahim was passed down, and Yusuf had it, and these things. So these things were passed down from generation, from prophets to prophets to prophets. And we read in Hayatul Qulub of Allama Majlisi that all of these things are with the Imams also, and the Imam of the time now, Imam Mahdi Ajallah Ta'ala Farajuhu Sharif. So Allah sent Nabi Shu'ayb alayhi salam to guide these people. And he moved there with the rest of his tribe. And he started living with them for a lot of years, establishing, credibility, that they saw him as a good person, that he was adil, he was just, and he had the best akhlaq, because he is a prophet of God, and he had a lot of compassion for his fellow human being. And then they realized that he's very sensible, so people started looking towards people there, because they all looked towards him, and his influence was strong, that they accepted him as one of their own. Shu'ayb made a lot of efforts to reform them. So he started doing, Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahi anil Munkar, the joining what is good, forbidding what is wrong. And he presented them the miracles that he had, that Allah gave him to show that he was a prophet and to remove the doubts from them. It doesn't mention exactly what these miracles were from the prophet Shu'ayb, but the Quran says that proof has now come to you from your Lord. So this makes a reference to some sort of miracle that Shu'ayb showed them to prove that he was a messenger. So we see here that he waited and he got his influence over the people so he could affect them. So we see that we take a lesson from this, that one should use their influence they have in order to help other people and call people towards good things. Imagine the impact the social media influencers today. They have millions and millions of followers. What they can do if they use their influence in making good, steering people to do good towards others, instead of wasting their efforts on useless things to get laughs and jokes and these type of things. But if they actually use their power of the social media, the influence they had to have people do good things. A lot of people do this, but if everyone would do this, it would be a lot better. So it shows that when a person has influence, they get responsibility of helping people and shaping society in a way towards good, to call people towards good, because they're held accountable. If you call someone towards something good and you encourage someone to do something good, you teach them something good. When they do that action, you will get barakat from that too. And also they will get it without losing any barakat. For example, you teach someone how to make salah. Every time they make salah, they get their blessings, but you also share in blessings. You get your own blessings because you have taught that person. Or the same goes, these people who could influence people to do bad and haram things and encourage people. They say, these people, it could get tricked and say, peer pressure, or, oh, everyone's doing it. Look at this social media person. I really like them. And now they are doing it. For example, someone who's a social media influencer, or make an example that they encourage young girls to be modest and to wear hijab, and that it is a good thing and stuff like this. So some girls, they want to put on hijab. Then they get barakat for helping in younger girls to make the decision to do what they were, obligation that they had. But on the opposite or the flip side of it is if a social media influencer who wears hijab gets very popular, and then they remove their hijab and say, you know what, we don't need this. We want to be liberated and we're free, and all these other ideas, and they take their hijab off. A lot of the young girls who are influenced by her say, I agree with her and I love her talks and her things, and I'm going to take my hijab off too. So we can see that the influence can be used for good or for bad, and that we have responsibility with that. And however many people we maybe influence, we can either get barakat from it, or we can get sins from these things and burdens on us. So we have to use the influence in a positive way. So this is what Shu'ayb did. He called the people towards what Allah has commanded and started, influencing them in a good way. So he called his people. He said, my people worship Allah. You have no God except him. Will you not fear him? I am a trustworthy messenger sent to you. So fear Allah and obey me and await the last day. I do not ask for any money for this guidance. My compensation is solely with the Lord of the worlds. Because a lot of times we do things, or people do things, in order to get some return on investment. They spend time with you to get something from you, or they do a favor for someone so that they can get a favor back in return. And people usually do something for each other for some sort of material or political gain, and whenever they get what they want, they throw them to the side, and they're done with them. But we should do good whether or not we receive anything in return or not. Because we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward our actions that are done sincerely for him. Even if the other person doesn't appreciate it, or doesn't say thank you to us, or we don't get the reaction that we wanted, or whatever, it doesn't matter, because Allah is the one whose pleasure we are seeking, and Allah will reward us. So when we do something for someone else, we are really doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his way, fi sabilillah, and Allah will reward us. So it doesn't matter, if we get anything in return for someone else or not. And this is what we see here, that I don't ask you any money for this guidance. I'm not, this is what Nabi Shu'ayb is telling his people. I'm not coming to you to look for you to support me and give me money, but I'm doing what my Lord has commanded me to do, and to give advice. Someone shouldn't just give advice if someone is giving them money, for example. And this is what we learn from this, is the obligation is on him to give the guidance. So when the obligation is on them to give guidance, he has to give guidance. It's not that he's coming after them for something. He says, alluding to the miracles he showed them, he said, "Proof has now come to you through me from your Lord, so you have no excuse but to take my admonishment. Measure and weigh in full, and do not undervalue people's goods, and do not thus cause corruption on earth when Allah has perfected it." So he's coming to them saying that, look, I have given you a miracle, so now you know that I am truthful. So you're obligated to. I'm giving you messages from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You've already seen I have this miracle, this mu'jiza, that now you should obey me, because what I am saying is not from me, it is from Allah. I'm just conveying the message. He's telling them that they should not undervalue things. They need to do the correct business transaction. And in the footnote, the author, he says, to a great extent, society's happiness is dependent on a fair system of commerce. If things are unfair, people are going to be very, upset. No one's going to be in a good mood. If they go to the market and they're constantly getting cheated all the time, no one is going to be happy. He says a system that deprives producers, service providers, middlemen, or retailers of their rightful pay is not sustainable. Consequences of such social injustice include poverty, crime, social unrest, political turmoil, and a general lack of security. While Shu'aib's 2 or 3 points that he mentioned to them to reform themselves, it might seem minor and very specific, but it's at the core of the people's problems that they were having were these things. If they fix these things, then they would, fix a lot of their society. He says, "For this is better for you if you have believed after seeing my proof." These are ayats from Quran. And it reminds me of this story where someone, he committed 2 sins. He went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and asked him which one he should stop doing, because he's committing 2 sins. So he's lying, and the other one was fornication. So we look at fornication as greater than lying. So the Prophet told him, stop lying. Okay. So he made a promise that he would stop lying. So he stopped lying. And then he felt that if he did fornication, and the Prophet asked him if he had done fornication, and then he said that he won't lie anymore. He made a promise to Rasulullah he wouldn't lie. So he would have to admit to that, and then he would receive the punishment for that. So him promising not to lie also stopped him from doing other sins like fornication or any other things. So the lying was the root of one of the roots that once he fixed that, it stopped the other problems. So Shu'ayb told these people, he said, I see that you are well off, and I fear for you the punishment of an inescapable day. The people of Midian had no reason to cheat and act corruptly, for Allah had blessed them beyond their measure, and he would increase their bounty if they only turned to him and deal fair with one another. So they had money. They didn't need to, they didn't even, some people who don't have money, they're tricked and deceived into thinking that they need to do some sort of criminal thing or shady business in order that they can get money. If they do it the fair and right way, that they will not get anything, and they won't succeed, and they won't get the return that they want. So they feel like they need to do this in order to get where they need to be. These people are already financially well off. They didn't need to cheat in business, but they were doing it anyway, just being greedy and hoarding money. So Shu'ayb was telling them, you don't need to do these type of things. Just leave it and abandon it. Allah is not pleased with these type of things. So he told them that they need to deal fair with each other. And he says, what Allah has left for you by way of fair gain would be better for you if you were believers. I am not your keeper, so you must choose your own path. So Shu'ayb is telling them that even if you do the lawful way and you leave everything else, that's enough for you. And I'm not the compeller on you, but this is I'm showing you the correct way towards Allah's pleasure. But it's up to you to choose your own way. Do you want to disregard the advice of the Messenger of God and the pleasure of Allah and throw it to the side just so you can earn some extra money that you don't even need? Or would it be better for you to follow the Prophet of God, since you have seen the miracle and you have seen the truthfulness of the claim of his claim? Obviously, this is the logical choice, but a lot of people are blinded by greed and money and pride and other things and other diseases of the heart, and they choose to be stubborn. So they told him, Shu'ayb, do your prayers give you the right to order us around, to abandon what our forefathers have worshipped, or to do with our money what we wish? He's saying that these things are ours. We can do what we want to with our money, and we follow our forefathers. Who are you to come tell us what to do, basically? So they believed he was forgetting himself and overstepping his bounds, considering himself to be higher than them because he prayed differently than them. They said, "Oh, you think you're better than us because you do something different than us, and oh, you're some big shot like this." So they continued. They said, "Far be it from you to order us, for we know you to be forbearing and sensible." So he said, "O people, tell me, should I cease guiding and admonishing you if I am with clear proof from my Lord, and he has provided me with the spiritual sustenance of divine revelation? He was morally compelled by the knowledge Allah had given him to guide others." So he's saying that if Allah is telling me to admonish you and guide you, you want me to stop doing what Allah is telling me to do. And he said, "Rest assured that I'm not trying to unduly limit your freedom, because I don't intend to be different than you by perpetuating what I forbid for you." He says, "All too often, those who set out to reform others forget to begin with themselves. But Shu'ayb, alayhi salam, like all the other prophets, was committed to implementing every reform in his own life before expecting anybody else to follow. He says, I wish only to effect reform as much as I can, but my success in doing so is only from Allah, and in him do I trust, and to him do I turn." So the reform, in order to reform ourselves, we need Allah's help. He says, my success is only from Allah. I'm doing as much as I can, and I trust in him, and I turn towards him. We have to ask Allah for his guidance and help in reforming ourselves and becoming good Muslims. Because some people think that they can reform themselves, or that they should reform themselves, then they should come to the religious community. But we are in need of religion and the teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, and in order to reform ourselves. We cannot do it without them. We cannot reform ourselves without Quran. If we could reform ourselves without these things, and we could find the right path and follow the right path on our own, why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send us Quran or all the other books of prophets before? Why would he send us messengers to teach us and give us communications and all these things on the right way of the do's and the don'ts, the boundaries of our religion and the teachings of our religion, if we didn't need religion to do that? So we need religion. We shouldn't think that, I need to get myself right, then come. No, we need the help of Allah. We need the help of religion. We need the help of teachings of Ma'asumeen alayhi salam. We need the support and help of our other families, we could say. We have our family, our father, our mother, our brother, sister, this type of family. But we also have other family, which is the community of believers. So we need the support of them to help us also to work on ourselves. He says, and he told them, O people, do not let your defiance of me cause such a punishment to afflict you, that which afflicted Noah's people, Hud's people, Salih's people. Even Lut's people were not long before you, so you should not have forgotten what happened to them and the actions that led them to it. So seek your Lord's forgiveness, then turn to him. My Lord is merciful and loving. So we see that he is drawing the people's attention to look at the previous nations that came before him. What happened when they didn't obey their prophet and they went and did whatever they wanted to do that was against Allah's command? What happened to them? He's telling them, take a look. These people, they were stubborn and they didn't listen to the prophet. So what happened to them? Don't let that happen to you. Take it as a lesson and follow Allah's advice. And he's not doing it for anything in return from them. He's just trying to help them. So he says he kept calling people to the religion, and he started sending missionaries to those surrounding places. And to one civilization in Africa, he sent one of his companions. And this person called all those people to Shu'aib's religion, but they refused to believe in him. He called them, but they were stubborn and they rejected him. In the end, this emissary that Shu'aib sent, they ended up burying him alive, and they left him to die in that place. So this was the end of a lot of people, a lot of prophets, and a lot of people who were sent. They died a horrible death for trying to, they became shaheed for their religion. And a lot of people, died trying to preserve this religion and keep the teachings of Islam alive. And I feel that if we have this religion and we let it go and we drop it and we don't uphold it and we don't try to preserve it and keep it, preserve the teachings of Islam and within ourselves and our family and our people we are in contact with, then I feel like we have let these people down. Like they have died trying to preserve this. A lot of people died in Battle of Karbala, for example, the sacrifice of Imam Hussein Alayhi Salam. And then they died for us to have what we have now. The Imams went into prisons. Mateen Tamar, for example, was crucified on date palm. People were beheaded. Shias were buried inside of the walls alive. They were placed. There's a lot of things that happened to those followers of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam and followers of the Imam alayhi salam, that they sacrificed a lot for us to even know the names of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So I feel like we owe them something, to uphold what they sacrificed their lives for. He says, Shu'ayb, he sent other people also to other regions, but none of these people were successful in calling the people to the religion. And we see from this that the religion is not meant to stay in one place. It's for all of mankind. We notice that Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he would train the slaves in the teachings of Ahlul Bayt and the sciences of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, and then he would free them and then send them to Africa in order to spread the message to the people there. And if Islam was meant to only stay in the Arabian Peninsula, then the Prophet would not have approved of Salman al-Farsi or Salman al-Muhammadi, him translating the Quran into Farsi. It was the first translation of Quran from Arabic to Farsi for the Persians to learn about Islam and the religion. If it was only meant for Arabs, then he would not have approved of this. So Islam is meant for all people, and the way of Allah is meant for all people, not just specific people. So we see that Shu'ayb was sending these missionaries out. He said the leaders of the city told Shu'ayb, Shu'ayb, we do not comprehend much of what you say. They don't understand a lot of the things he's saying. They heard but were not listening, and they saw but they weren't looking. So Allah sealed their hearts from the truth. And they sought at once to insult him and threaten him. And they said, we consider you to be weak. If it weren't for our courtesy of our to your clan, we would stone you, and you are not at all dear to us. So he said, my people is my clan really more dear to you than Allah? You're putting someone more dear than the creator of the universe, the creator of all things. And do you disregard him as a thing consigned to oblivion? That's what he said to them. He said, neither had they any regard for him nor for Allah, but only for the formality of their tribal structure. They only cared about this. So he warned them, he said, beware, for my Lord comprehends fully what you do. Fear the one who created you and the generations who have passed before you. So unable to find any fault in anything that he said, they said, you are from those people who are bewitched or have magic on them. And you are only a human being like us. So we firmly believe you to be a liar. So they couldn't refute him. So they said, you must be possessed or doing magic, or we don't accept anything you say. So we challenge you to bring down a heavenly body upon us if you're truthful in your threats. So he said, my Lord knows better what you do and whether you deserve such a punishment or not. So they saw that they couldn't shake Shu'ayb alayhi salam from his mission that he was to teach them. So then they plotted to at least keep their own people away from him, not to follow him. So they staked out on the roads that led to his house and waited there to intercept anyone who wanted to visit the Prophet. So they harassed him and they did their best to convince them that it was Shu'ayb and not them who was corrupt. And we see the media today is always trying to give a bad image to Islam by highlighting what some ignorant people have done in the name of Islam, but they really, in reality, have nothing to do with the real teachings of our Prophet and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. And the media wants to keep people misinformed about the religion and keep people away from investigating the religion. It's just what these people were doing to Shu'ayb. They were blocking all the ways to his house, telling people, don't go, don't go. It's like they did in the Prophet's time when they read Quran. The people would bang on pots or make noise and yell and a lot of things so people wouldn't hear the Quran. The media, for example, was always painting a bad image or the Prophet in a bad light. But we as Muslims, we have to change the perception of people by having good akhlaq, being nice to people, being kind to people, and we have to change it. So they're always going to try to block the road to the Prophet's house. Even other groups are trying to make bad image of the way to the Prophet's household. So don't listen to Shias. They are bad. They will poison your food, or they do this to you, or they have tails and all sort of crazy things. Don't listen to them. And they are mushrik and they are kafir and they are this. Do anything. Even one scholar of other school of sect of Islam, he said that it's better for you to drink khamr, to drink wine or alcohol, than to debate with a Shia. Don't talk with them. Don't listen to them, because they think that they will affect you, put magic on you and these things. So they were trying to do this to Shu'ayb. So Shu'ayb told them, my people don't lie and wait upon every road that leads to me, threatening those who believe in Allah and dissuading them from making the path to Allah, by portraying it as crooked. And remember when you were few and Allah made you many, and consider the end of those who cause corruption. If it comes to pass that a group of you has believed in that with which I have been sent, and another portion has not believed, then I call upon you all to be patient until Allah judges between us. He is the best of judges. So he says here, he's telling them that they need to believe in what he is saying, and that if some of them believe and some of them don't believe, then Allah will judge between what they do. He says the leaders among his people who were arrogant, they said, we will expel you, we will kick you out of here from our city, and with you those who believe, or you must revert to our religion. So they said, we will kick you out, or you have to come to be mushrik, We have to come to worship these other gods on our religion of our forefathers. And this is the case, is people will never be happy with Muslims until they leave Islam and follow their own way. They will want them to revert back to their religion. And this is something that is mentioned in Quran. It says the Jews, Surah Baqarah, ayah 120, the Jews and the Christians will never be pleased with you. It doesn't say they will not be pleased with you. It says they will never be pleased with you unless you follow their ways. They will not be happy with you following the way of the Prophet. They only want you to abandon that and revert or convert to their religion. And in case of those who reverted, they want them to go back to their religion. He says that Allah says, say Allah's guidance is the only true guidance. If you were to follow their desires after the knowledge that has come to you, you would find no one to protect you from Allah or to help you. So in this case, we know what is true, and we know in the truth of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that nothing would shake us from that faith. That we have complete belief in the messengership, that he is the finality of the seal of the prophets. So anyone, they would always want us to revert back or to change back to their religion. But when we know the truth, it reminds me of a saying this old Muslim brother used to tell me all the time when I was younger. He said, I've seen too many proofs to do anything else. I've seen too many clear evidences that there's no way that I could go back to anything else. So this is what Shu'ayb, he tells them, should we revert even if we are unwilling? If we revert to your religion after Allah has delivered us from it, then we would be fabricating lies against Allah. So he was saying that, how could we go back, or not in his case going back, because he was never part of that, but they want him to change to that, to worship their idols and the way of their forefathers. How could he do that when he is a messenger of Allah and he knows the truth from his Lord? He said, if I did this, I would be doing something false, something I don't believe in, something that is fabricated. And all of these are just idols. They're not the one who created, the universe and all things. So he's saying, how can we go back when we know the truth? Because we would be fabricating a lie knowingly against Allah. But this is what they wanted them to do. They said, we will expel you, or it's the ultimatum they gave them. We will expel you, we'll exile you, and those who believe with you, or you have to come to our religion. So we will leave here because we have run out of time. And the next week, we'll see what happened with Shu'ayb alayhi salam after this ultimatum was given to him. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma
salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Jazakallah.
Okay.
So inshallah, see you next week then. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. I'll see